To answer the question of what's the cost of not doing it, you'll never know unless you try it, and you'll never know what you gave up. I mean, that's just, we can't know what would have been, even though we'd like to pretend that we can most of the time. And that's one of the things about, the future and the past. You could say, well, if I made a different choice, it'd be this way, but would it really? And if I make this choice or that choice, it'll turn out that way. Well, will it really? I mean, we have this illusion of security about where things are going to go based upon our choices, but there's so many factors we can't control. So when it comes to deciding, for me, as an individual now, what is the cost of not making this leap into something more entrepreneurial? I guess the question is what can't you do if you don't do that? We're not saying you can achieve it, but what can't you do? And that could be, the cost may be your freedom of movement. The cost may be your freedom of time, or to organize when you want to work or how you want to work. Some of us are very different people. I know people who are just diehard morning people. I know someone who gets up, literally, he gets up at 1:30 in the morning. And then he gets to work at his desk by 2, and he loves 2 to 6 because it's quiet, and he can deal with Asian overseas markets, which he works with a lot. And it's a lovely time for him. Then he works through till, kind of an early afternoon and is done. Of course, he goes to bed pretty early, but this is what he loves. And you can't really start your normal office job at 2 a.m. Nobody's, up and working unless you're in a different country. So, but he's made this choice, and he works primarily from home, and he's able to work whenever he wants to, and he has very free afternoons. He doesn't stay up super late, but he loves it that way. So there's that time with your family. There's that time that you have on your own to decide, how do I want to organize my life and get work done? You're giving that up if you don't actually try it. Why else now is a good time to do it? It's such a great question. It's almost like it's socially acceptable, because it wasn't really socially acceptable before to say, I'm gonna buck the trend. It was unusual. It was entrepreneurial, has this patina about it of being very unusual and special and different, and also usually big success. Whereas that entrepreneurial just means that you're choosing to do it more on your own, on your terms, than in somebody else's terms. And as my friend Mark Bowden says, there's prizes and punishments for that. But right now, we're seeing more of it. We're expecting more of it. It's not so shocking. And in fact, it's also something that is entirely recoverable from. Because here's one of the things that happens when you go to get a quote unquote normal job or normative job, is they look at what you've been doing. And this, I dabbled in this or I dabbled in that, is how it comes across if you just tried some things. And people may read stuff into that, both positive and negative. But right now, we were forced into dabbling, if you will, through COVID in many ways. So you can tell a story that is acceptable to what has been common, getting the job, working for somebody else or a company. You can tell a story as to why you rejected that life instead of decide, hey, COVID made me do it. So you have an opportunity to leverage the disruption in what's happened in work and our society to give it a try, almost a no harm, no foul. So, to answer the question of what's the cost of not doing it, you'll never know unless you try it, and you'll never know what you gave up. I mean, that's just, we can't know what would have been, even though we'd like to pretend that we can most of the time. But this is one time in which you have the ability to do it, and maybe it costs you less as you come back from it, or succeed in it, depending upon how it turns out.